This video is going to be a little bit of CSS and HTML review and an introduction to how we can use div tags. So I'm going to create a new HTML page using brackets. I'm going to call this one Spirit Guide. Alright, so first thing we need is a doc type, HTML. That's defines this as an HTML document, and the doc type part is needed specifically for Internet Explorer. So we have our HTML. I'm going to add our head tags. I'm going to add our body tags. And space these out a bit. And I'll give myself a heading. With Bert's Guide to Animal Spirits. I think Bert was part Native American, somewhere down in the Florida swamps. I'm going to throw in an image. And let's see if this picks up what's on my desktop. That one, and I'll throw in another image. Let's save these and take a look. Okay, here it is. So, got the image I was tracing before. That's not mine. And then a picture from the movie Gators, where Bert starred as Gator McCluskey. That's his animal spirit. Okay, and given that, now I'm going to add some tags from my previous project to my images. Some CSS ones, to control the size of those. So create a new CSS file. So I open a new document. I've got some image tags in there. I'm going to save it as spirit.css. And I'll make sure I save that in the same area as my other file. Same folder. So they both should be on the desktop. I'm going to need to add a link to that. And I'm just going to copy that right out of W3 Schools. So I'll use this line right here. This associates our CSS page with our web page. For these, let's go with height. Go 300 px, width 400 px. We'll save both of these and go back, and notice it changed. When using this, we have a live preview. So whenever we make changes here, it instantly updates. So that's not too bad. But say I want to position these elsewhere on the page and add some text. The way I might do that are with div tags. The div tag is just a blank tag that we can use for page divisions. So it doesn't do anything by itself. It might have do the equivalent of hitting enter, like a page break, but other than that, it serves no function unless we define it. Let me clean these up a bit. So if I save that, go back to my live preview, so all it did was hit enter for us, so to speak, and bring this down. But that's not that significant. Now, since we might want to have these separate, or have them doing separate things, we might do separate classes. Div.1, div.2. And remember, don't use numerals there. And since this is a CSS command, this is a class description. This sort of separates them. So we can do div class equals 1 and div class equals 2. Now we can start separating some things. No, excuse me, one new thing that came with, that's out with CSS3, the latest iteration, is something to make life easier. So we are going to use this tag, and I'm actually just going to throw that in at the top of my CSS page. And the reason for that is, prior to that being implemented, when we use the box model, we might have our content in here, maybe a picture that's 300 pixels wide. If we had added some padding, say 25 pixels, a 25 pixel border, a 25 pixel outline, and a 25 pixel margin, we'd have to account for 100 extra pixels in width. So even though this might be a 300 pixel wide item, we would have to account for it as 400. So we constantly have to do some just nickel and dime math to make sure our everything matched up. If we put this next to another box with the same properties, we'd always be subtracting and adding these borders and things. So this new line of code, what it does is when we set a box size with all those, or something in our content size, this will sort of make sure that the outline, the padding, the margin, and a border are all taken into size. So if we define our box as 500 pixels wide, that's inclusive of everything else. So okay, now that I have my div tag 1 and div tag 2 set up here in the CSS page and then added to my HTML page, it's time to start differentiating them. So I can put in maybe some borders to help distinguish them. And let me give them some background colors. And I'll stick with navy. And I'll do the same down here. Oops. And then some text color, I'll do white for both of them. So let's also give these a little bit of text as well. So Bert's animal spirit is the Florida gator. It could have been the firebird. Based on his car. All right, so I'll save that. let's take a look. All right, so notice these are two div boxes, and we can also give them height and width. So let's make sure we get them higher than, bigger than the pictures. I'm just going to copy these. And I'll add 100 to each. And then copy these down. And then the last thing I want to do to keep the text kind of centered, or just not squished up to one side, is just margin, auto. And that just kind of helps our text stay nice and neat. So I'll save that. Now let's take a look. All right, not bad. And notice these are on different lines. To do that a little bit separate, I can put the line break in here. And notice that the BR tag, or remember that it does not have a closing tag, it's just one. And let's see what we get. Gotta save it first. There we go. Now that margin auto, I shouldn't say it resizes it, but as we resize our text boxes, it can just prevent things from getting out of hand. Then lastly, we want to get into positioning, just like we did last class. So back in here, we'll do position, absolute. We'll go down from the top 200 pixels, and from the left just a tiny bit, maybe 30 pixels. And for div tag 2, go down maybe 700 and 130. See how this looks. Save it and preview. And I'm missing one of them. Okay, and what I was missing there is I had spaces between my numbers and PXs. So now I have these two set up, and this can be used then to define areas of your web page and then put information inside of it and place them various areas on the screen. Now notice how this information is tight in the corner there. So if I wanted to pad it, I could do something like padding 25 px for both of them. And it helps organize materials a little bit. And then lastly, if we wanted to center the text a little bit, we could use some of the CSS text align center. And there we go. Not too bad.